got a green light. I don't know what else to do. Okay, this afternoon we're going to be taking a look at the major cancers in the United States. We're not going to spend a lot of time with lung cancer because lung cancer becomes the minor cancer when we take smoking out of the equation, and this is not a stop smoking seminar. If you do smoke, well, talk to me after class, or write your name 100 times on the board, or do something. I can't discipline you enough. If I can't get through that, then we'll come to me after your first heart attack. Most common cancer in the United States, we went through these before. We're going to start with preventing breast cancer, and what I'm going to be going is what we know of the recent research that actually prevents breast cancer. Not just wait till you get breast cancer and do something about it. This is actually prevention, meaning never get it. Now, second line is if you have breast cancer, what I'm recommending here can be beneficial to either decrease the growth, eliminate it completely, or make it not a scary thing that you feel like I've only got 2 months to live. Number one, avoid even light drinking. They used to say you can have up to so many ounces of wine, 2 drinks a day, this type of thing. Well, it was based not on cancer research, it was based on do we increase the heart attack rate. Well, today we're talking cancer, and now they're recommending even light drinking increases your risk of cancer. Here's a slide. This is when they say a meta-analysis, what they do is they take like 100 studies and take the summary of them, and what do they find out? What they have found is that this is grams of alcohol across the bottom. Now, an ounce of alcohol is about 30 grams. Very few alcohol drinks are 200 proof or 100% alcohol. Even where I live, in the part of the country that I live in, they may get to 190, but they don't usually get to 200 proof, okay? Actually, it's not fun. We actually still have people who produce their own brew. Relative risk. One, relative risk. So if this risk goes up, as alcohol consumption goes up, then we got a major risk. So if we have an alcoholic drink, drinks aren't alcoholic, that's people. Alcohol drink, then you have a certain amount of grams per. But very few of you are using pure alcohol. If you were, then 1 ounce would put you at 30, you'd be at this category. 2 ounces would be here. The take-home message is that if you want to prevent breast cancer, you'll find something better to drink. And you're going to save your brain while you're at it. So avoid even light drinking. And light drinking used to think that, well, I could drink 1 drink a week and be okay. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. Exercise. Vigorous exercise must work up a sweat 5 times a week. Ladies, walking is awesome. May help your weight. But the ladies that use this to prevent breast cancer, work out 30 to 45 minutes, work up a good sweat, and work out 5 times a week. That's the group where we definitely see a significant decrease in the breast cancer rate. That doesn't mean that if you're not in that category that you say, well, Dr. Collins said to me my walk is not worth anything. I am not saying that. I'm just telling you what the research demonstrates. I happen to believe that any walking is helpful for your immune system. And just because I don't have research to prove it to you doesn't mean next time you see me I won't. Research is a tool that we use to try to understand the reality of our environment. So, vigorous exercise must work up a sweat. And I can't give you a heart rate because this week you could have stepped outside and said, well, I guess I don't have to walk today, I'm sweating. Yeah, with the humidity we've had where I live, literally I'd go outside and do minimal. I go, I'm not working hard, my shirt is wet. I mean, it's like you walked out into the shower. Hormones, a major problem with breast cancer. Breast cancer is one of those tissues that's hormonally sensitive. So anytime you take long-term birth control is high estrogen, high progesterone. You give it to ladies so that when the progesterone is high, The body thinks it's pregnant all the time. And if a lady thinks she's pregnant all the time, she won't ovulate. That's the key with birth control. And if you're not ovulating, obviously you can't get pregnant. But long-term birth control use affects the breast tissue, from enlargement to density to a variety of other things that obviously increase it. Hormone replacement, HRT, usually happens menopause and later, increases the risk of breast cancer. Not as much as they first thought it did, but it still increases the risk of breast cancer. Back in the major scare 15, 20 years ago, a lot of ladies went off this. Well, I would like them to have a healthy fear. I don't want them to be miserable. So what we came up with is the bioidentical hormones that are like the hormones your body produces, not synthetic hormones like progesterone instead of progesterone, like your estrogens that are synthetic, much more harmful to the body. So they came up with the bioidentical. And these bioidenticals can be used safely if you've got someone to work with and balance out what you're dealing with. So we don't expect ladies to be totally uncomfortable. But you need to try a few things before you give up on this. You need to try unrefined soy products. You need to find some other things that prevent breast cancer too to actually work with this. And soy has gotten a black eye, and if we have enough time, we'll discuss that a little bit. Weight, fat distribution. The lower you carry your fat, the better off you are. Ladies that carry their fat in their hips and thighs have less cancer and less heart disease. Ladies who carry their fat around their waist, we call that apple versus pear, you have more cancer and more heart disease. Very simply. Visceral fat, fat around the middle, is fat around the internal organs. That is a much more damaging storage system than fat here and thighs, the way we're made. Men, same rule, except most men tend to have a beer belly and they're shaped more like apples. So men, basically, you got the wrong storage from the get-go. Ladies sometimes store it a little bit lower. Muscle to fat ratio. I really don't care what your numbers are on a scale. That's not the relevant point here. The point is how much fat to how much muscle you're carrying. And if you go back, and if you were a good weight at age 25, that's probably somewhere where you should weigh. Now, let's admit it. I had a lot more muscle when I was 25 than what I do now. So I may not have the same number, but I still can have the same fat ratio. If you go to a gym, if you check your fat, men, we'd like you around 10% body fat. Ladies, somewhere around 16% body fat. Those are reasonable to attain. Those are healthy levels, and you have the right amount of fat versus muscle. Muscle never penalizes you for getting heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. It's the fat that we carry that penalizes us for those diseases. Melatonin and sleep. I should have a melatonin slide here. As a general rule, when you're 10 years of age, you're going to have very high melatonin levels, and by the time you get to 70, it's going to be about 1/10 of what you started with. Maybe that's why we don't sleep as well as we get older. But we find that melatonin is elevated in a plant-based diet, and melatonin is low in an animal protein diet. So if you want to increase your melatonin, improve your quality of sleep, eat your cabbage. It's getting simple. On the other hand, we find that melatonin suppresses cancer growth. Well, if it does, then blind ladies should have less breast cancer. Guess what they did? They did a study on blind ladies, and guess what? They have half the breast cancer rate that the rest of the ladies do. Because when you can't see and can't get sun in the eye to shut the melatonin production off, they make more melatonin. And they have less breast cancer. Something to it. A plant-based diet, like I said, those ladies, when they check their urine, which is where the melatonin goes, they have a higher melatonin excretion in their urine. Ladies on an animal protein-based diet have a much lower melatonin excretion. So therefore, we think there's a pretty strong correlation. Besides, sleeping isn't all bad. I mean, you rest up and feel good, preventing breast cancer, healthy fats. You have to have fat. That's why they call it essential EFAs, essential fatty acids. That means you have to have it. Now, how much do you have to have? About 3% of your diet has to be fat to survive. Now, before you get scared, 3%, you would actually not be able to eat a nut, a seed, an olive. You'd hardly be able to eat broccoli. Broccoli runs about 7 or 8% fat. So I'm setting it to the point where you realize that if you just eat like the cow, you're home free. They get plenty of fat, and where they get their fat from? Isn't that amazing? And you brag about your cow for what? The butter fat content that it has in the milk. Well, where did the butter fat come from? The hamburger joint around the other end of the field that they got their hamburgers from? Folks, their butter fat came from grass. Their protein came from grass. Their carbohydrate came from grass. Their 1,200-pound body, which you may not want, came from grass. Their milk came from grass. And then the farmer makes cheese out of it, and you say, well, that still came from the cow. Well, not quite, but close. So healthy fats, omega-3 fats, and the reason we concentrate on this is because we have absolutely no problem getting omega-6s. Omega-6s are in everything. In fact, we try to lower them. And so omega-3 fats, flaxseed and chia seed are almost tied for the most quantity of omega-3 fats. That's why we have people grinding their flaxseed. That's why we have people putting chia seed in a variety of their food and in their salads and wherever you want to hide it. Nuts, almonds, and walnuts would be your choice there if you're trying to get omega-3 fats. Sunflower seeds, great choice. Sunflower seeds, easy to grow, even in our climate here. A little harder to harvest. And we're spoiled. We go to the grocery store and we buy sunflower seeds and we haven't shelled a single one yet. You know, I think that God may have a sense of humor. You know, if you had to shell all the nuts that you ate, you probably would eat less. Don't you think? I will guarantee you, in the black walnut category, you'd eat a whole lot less. I used to shell those when I was a kid. Okay, so we have healthy fats. They're basically found in an unrefined form. I've already mentioned avocados, nuts, seeds. Guess what another source of fat is? Soybeans are 1/3 fat. So if you had just beans to eat, you're in great shape of getting all the fat you need. Well, think of we've already done the cow already. I mean, cow doesn't need beans. Decreasing your cholesterol level. Cholesterol, we find that the LDL, we call that the bad cholesterol, mostly speaking of blocking up vessels and heart disease here, but LDL cholesterol stimulates breast cancer cells to grow. If you've got no other reason and you're not worried about your coronary arteries, please take care of your breast. You don't need a high LDL level. LDL level means that you have way too much inflammation in the body and you're sitting on the edge of genetic alterations and changes. Soy foods. Soy foods, contrary to a lot of black eyes that they've gotten, are one of the best foods you can eat to prevent breast cancer. Let me qualify that. Soy foods, in their unrefined state, are the best foods to eat to prevent breast cancer. Now, when you go to the store and you're trying to be a vegetarian and you pick up the pack of Smart Dogs, which aren't too smart, Smart Dogs, and you read the ingredients, you're going to read things like soy protein isolate. Write that down. Soy protein isolate. Then you take the pack and you set it back on the shelf. That's a highly refined soy product. The insulin-like growth factor, the IGF, is actually more cancer stimulating in that product than the cow's milk over here on the next shelf around the corner. Leave that package on the shelf. The next soy product is soy protein concentrate. Leave that one on the shelf too. But if you want soybeans or edamames or if you want soy milk, and we'll even fudge a little bit and say you can have tofu, even though when you make tofu, you throw part of the carbohydrate away, and you keep the fat and you keep the protein and throw away the shells and things like that. Still okay from a breast standpoint. How do we know this? The populations around the world that ate the most soy, when Japan used to be my poster child, had the lowest breast cancer rate, had the least amount of hot flashes, had the least amount of hormonal disturbances. Soy is good food. Plain and simple. Used for breast cancer prevention. Breast cancer prevention, third slide. These are on your handout there, obviously. Cancer stem cells. Cancer cells can be killed in a variety of ways, whether it's immune system, whether it's chemotherapy, whether it's starvation, etc., etc. What research is showing now that we're very concerned about the stem cells that can differentiate, but they can avoid most of your agents used to kill the cancer cells. This type of a cell, because it's not differentiate, can avoid chemotherapy and raise its ugly head later. So let's do it from a preventive standpoint. If I want to prevent cancer stem cells and kill them and get to the very root of the problem, not just scratching the surface, whether we cut out a lump or do a lumpectomy or et cetera, that's not the answer. That is a debulking of the tumor. That's the best that can be. The sulforaphane is from broccoli. And broccoli is extremely effective in killing these cancer stem cells. How would you like to know? Or how do you think they answered that question? They gave ladies who were going to have a breast reduction surgery 1/2 cup of broccoli, sprouted broccoli sprouts, juiced. Gave them 1/2 cup before surgery. I mean, what lady is going to go for this experiment? Okay, only one that is planning to lose a little bit of tissue. Okay, so on these breast reduction patients that drank this, I don't say cocktail, it sounds like alcohol, this juice, prior to surgery, guess what they found in their breast tissue? Sulforaphane, which came from the broccoli sprouts. It can go into the digestive tract, through the stomach, into the bloodstream, to the target tissue and do something. That's how we know that works. Most research we have, we say, well, we put it in the stomach and we hope it goes somewhere. No, we actually know that this works. So let's use it for prevention. I hope you enjoy your broccoli. If you want to sprout broccoli seeds during the winter, awesome. If you want to eat sprouts, great. Cooking would change some of the chemicals, but the sulforaphane, I am not sure how disturbed that would be with your broccoli. But what we do know, when we look at men here a little bit, is that you will actually get more of this compound, this particular compound, from cooked broccoli than you will from just raw broccoli. So in this situation for ladies, I can say yes. But that's not true with all things. Sometimes you get some advantages from eating it raw. Sometimes you get advantages from eating it steamed. So what's the take-home message? Enjoy your broccoli. Enjoy both. What's that? Time frame in what? I would say probably a matter of 3 to 4 hours. That's a fair time for digestion to get in. Yeah, it could even be less than that. Oh, yes, yeah. The heterocyclic amines, this is a chemical. As a result, these amines, which are proteins here, amino acids, these type of protein, when you fry meat, cause breast cancer, inflame, and irritate the tissue. See, in the old days, we used to take rabbits and paint their ears with tar because we could examine the ear under a microscope and see tissue changes. Well, this is a little more sophisticated now. We've got the heterocyclic amines from fried meats actually affecting the breast tissue. So what's the take-home message? I was going to say let somebody else eat it. Don't wish it on anybody. I mean, folks, your grocery store will stop carrying junk food if everyone stops eating junk food. They are businessmen. They will sell junk food regardless of health. That's not a health food store. And health food stores sell junk too, so you still can't go there and eat everything at a health food store. Now we're even calling hospitals whatever name, and they put health after it. I just almost have to smile or cry, one or the other. Green vegetables, broccoli, collards, are liver detoxifiers. Why am I so concerned about your liver? Your liver is the organ that does more for you than what most would give it credit for. If you're eating a toxin, you want the best possible liver you can get your hands on, so to speak. And if you're eating a toxin, you want broccoli and collard greens to help out the liver to absorb it. One of the biggest reasons you eat fiber is to minimize the exposure of whatever you've eaten that's terrible, to get it in and out as quick as possible. Americans' transit time can be 5 or 6 days from mouth to elimination. We would like to shoot for maybe 72, 3 days, 2 days. When you get down to 12 hours, you need to come and see me about an inflamed bowel, okay? But the other thing is we have found that certain things absorb toxins better than others. You're going to like this one. This one's easy. Strawberries turned out to be one of the best toxifying absorbers in everything we had tested. So I hope you like your strawberries. Too bad they don't grow year-round, and we can harvest them. Whole food, plant-based diet, and I put down here ravediet.com if you want to go online for that. So, what have we learned? Almost everything I've told you about breast cancer prevention is what? Outside of exercise, what you put in your mouth. You are what you eat. You really are. Every cell in your body got there from something you ate, including your brain cells and your liver cells. Another article I was looking at gave these recommendations, and we'll go through them quickly. Prevent breast cancer, maintain ideal body weight. Well, if you're eating the diet we're recommending, that one wouldn't be too hard. Daily aerobic exercise. We covered exercise. Reduce hours in a constrictive bra. Ladies, you may like your running bra, but only use it when you're out there running. When you compress the breast tissue, you compress lymphatic flow. That's why most cancers, at least one reason, why most cancers are in the upper outer quadrant in ladies. So if you draw a cross through the breast, it's the upper outer quadrant. They blamed it on antiperspirants. They blamed it on a variety of things. Restricting the normal lymphatic flow in the breast is a definite problem. Manage or decrease stress, obviously. Get adequate sleep. We talked about melatonin. And get help to deal with emotional issues. Back in 1967, Holmes and Ray came out with a stress schedule to find out if stress increased disease. Well, obviously we know it now. This is back in 1967. Guess what one of their major stresses was? A house mortgage of more than $10,000. Now you have to equate that with probably a $200,000 one. Obviously, you expect death of a loved one, a spouse, a family member, a divorce. They all got graded, and you had a certain number, numerical value. If a person had over 300 stress points, so to speak, in a 2-year period, they followed them for another 2 years and saw the significant increase of breast cancer. So when we tell you to get help with emotional issues, it's not just a matter of saying this doesn't affect me, it's all because I'm upset, has nothing to do with my health, it's not going to affect. Yes, it does. There is nothing that you do, even sitting here, that either is enhancing or diminishing your immune system to fight right now. I want to ask you what you ate for lunch. Maybe you haven't had lunch yet. Maybe you came to see me. Colon cancer, really critical. You've got to reduce the transit time. When it comes in to when it goes out is absolutely critical because there's no such thing as a perfect diet. We can get close. We can eliminate a lot. You've got to reduce your transit time. 24, 36, maybe 48 hours is critical time frame for moving things through. If you want to test yourself, don't chew your corn or your cob too well. Eat beets. Eat something that changes the color or whatever. Take a spoon of charcoal. That'll make it scary or come out black, and you'll be really worried about yourself. Stool size. Colon cancer increases with low volumes. The critical tipping point is what they call the quarter pounder, okay? If you have less than a quarter pound of feces, you are at high risk of developing colon cancer. So when you graph the volume throughout, and as it goes up, your risk of cancer goes way down. So what does stool volume represent? Well, is there any fiber in meat? Is there any fiber in milk? Is there any fiber in chicken? Is there any fiber in the animal kingdom at all? The answer is, of course not. The cow ate that, and they had their own elimination, take care of their own bowel. Why are they going to give it to you? So if you want to take care of yourself, you got to eat what the cow eats. Don't eat the cow. I mean, this is simple. Colon cancer increases with low volumes. The lower the stool volume. Now, don't get out of here and ask me if I've weighed my stools every day, okay? I was a graduate student, and graduate students are the low people on the totem pole. Good thing my wife isn't here. When we first went to Loma Linda, we had people doing research on B12. Do vegans get enough B12? The age-old question, which I could have answered for them now, but anyway, I was part of the experiment. So we had to collect our stools, but the worst part is they didn't want them every day, so I had to put them in my new bride's refrigerator. This is getting interesting. So you capture them in a plastic bag. No, I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, not a paper bag, a plastic bag. They had to be frozen, and I was on a B12 study. Here's what it proved. A vegan doesn't have a problem with B12. B12 is all about intestinal health and absorption. Vegans have less B12 deficiency than meat eaters. So all these people running around making sure they're getting their B12, I'm taking people off it because they come in the office and their B12s are so high they can't figure out why they're wound up so tight. I said, well, it's like having too many cups of coffee. I mean, B12 is a metabolic stimulant. Stay away. So the size of the stool is directly proportionate to the amount of bowel cancer a person gets. Fiber absorbs toxins. We talked about strawberries. We talked about broccoli. You can add beans to your list. Fiber absorbs the toxins and carries it out. And when your liver detoxifies and puts bile out into the intestinal tract, you better have something there like your apple or your oatmeal to bind with that bile and carry it out. That's how you keep a healthy bowel. And by the way, all this probiotic craze is exactly as a craze. If you never messed up your bowel, you don't have to have probiotics. If you put good bacteria in the bowel, you plant the garden. You go out there the next morning and dig up the same row and plant it again. You go up the next morning and you plant it again. And by the third morning, you say, something's wrong here. If you take care of your bowel, if you eat the right diet, you have the right bacteria, and they got plenty to grow on, you don't need a probiotic pill. Why would you want another biotic pill in there anyway? Probiotics are not for your health. They're to make up for something you did wrong, like took steroids or antibiotics or ate meat. So we're doing a lot of things to cover up the real problem that we really don't need. Stool size, phytates, a compound that they felt would bind with everything from your calcium and all the other things. Oh, you shouldn't be eating phytates. They bind with all the good stuff that you're eating. Well, look at this. Phytates, obviously found in whole grains, beans, and nuts, prevent bowel cancer. So you don't need to be on a diet that's low in beans, grains, nuts, and seeds. Heme iron. Heme stands for hemoglobin, or animal iron. This is one of the most hydroxy radicals. That means these are one of the highest oxidizing things that you can do to your bowel. Taking iron supplements, a prescription iron supplements, is asking for trouble for your intestinal tract. If you need iron and you're anemic, you take blackstrap molasses, or you eat your beets, or you eat your Concord purple grapes, or you drink your purple grape juice. Do not take iron pills. Your body doesn't like them. Anybody recognize that? That's the most common supplement that people buy from me. That's, it just goes. I'm talking about thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of capsules that goes bang, 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 bang. The only time the way that works is that either they're really foolish, or I fooled them really well, or it's very effective. I happen to choose the latter. That's turmeric. Small tubers, those are almost actual size. Your spice there. But look at this. India is known for using a fair amount of this in their cooking, their chili, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's India versus United States. Women in the United States have 10 times the colon cancer that the women in India have. They have 7 times the lung cancer, and they have 5 times the breast cancer that the Indians have. The men in America, U.S. men, 11 times more colon rectal cancer, 23 times more prostate cancer, 7 times more lung cancer. India, as I said before, 7% of their population eat meat daily. So which is it, turmeric or vegetables? How about we don't argue about it and eat them both? Preventing colon cancer, diet, increase refined fats, increases cancer risk. Slows transit time. The more fat in your diet, the longer it takes to go through the intestinal tract, and fats are the hardest food to digest because of the energy it takes and passing through the system. Unsaturated fats produce free radicals. That unsaturated fat molecule that I showed you oxidizes a lot more rapidly, whether it's heated, with exposure, or just to oxygen. And obviously use whole food fats. If you want fat, get your corn oil by eating corn. Get your coconut oil by eating coconut. And if coconut tastes soapy, it's rancid. If your oil smells bad, don't try to save money. And don't give it to your dog if you like your dog. Fiber, water-soluble and insoluble. I just found a typo. It's water-soluble or water-insoluble or insoluble fat improves transit time. So what do we got here? Water-soluble is oats. Insoluble would be wheat. Eat a combination, unless you've got gluten intolerance, which is quite rare. Berries suppress cancer growth in the colon. I told you about strawberries. You could have raspberries or blackberries or blueberries, your choice. Plant-based diet improves transit time. No heme iron. There's no iron compounds to irritate your bowel wall and to cause changes genetically. High in fiber, healthy bowel bacteria. If you want to change, the best probiotic that you can take is cabbage. You're going to get sick of me, aren't you? Vegetables grow the right bacteria. Different bacteria grow on different mediums. If you want the right bacteria to grow in the bowel, you give them plant to grow on. If you give them meat protein and meats to grow on, you get different bacterial growth. And we could spend the rest of the afternoon talking about your immune system in your gut. And by the time I got done with that, hopefully you'd be convinced that you got to take care of your bacteria. The type of bacteria in your intestinal tract determine how effective your immune system is in fighting cancer. That's about as short as I can summarize it. The plant-based diet lowers cholesterol. First of all, it has no cholesterol in it, not even avocados. They have fat, but no cholesterol in it. But the plant-based diet lowers cholesterol because when the bile comes out of the liver, it's got cholesterol in it. It binds with your apple pectin because you ate the apple for breakfast, and you eliminate it. It's low in fat automatically. It helps weight control and best use of Earth's resources. Like I said, we do not have a food shortage on this planet. We have an animal excess on this planet. If we took all the animals that we use for food and got rid of them all and ate that food, you don't have to worry about even sending a check to Ethiopia. Send it over there for their education and clothes, but you don't have to worry about their food supply. Prostate cancer. We're covering the biggies. Milk and prostate cancer. Why do men love their milk so much? Hormones and growth factors in the milk stimulate prostate cancer. Dairy products, if ever eaten, I can't even go there. There's not a good time to use dairy products. If I give it to people too young, I get a lot more increase of childhood diabetes. Give it to a guy who's old, I get you can't win with this one. Eggs increase 2 times the spread of prostate cancer eating 1 egg a day compared to rarely or never eating eggs. That's why I told you the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center that's used the comparison of eggs in this, they needed a vegan population to really find out. Poultry, chicken, and turkey, 4 times the prostate cancer cell progression. And then insulin-like growth factor, the higher the IGF, the greater the risk of developing cancer. And that's all cancers. I should have had that on every one of my slides. Here's a few facts. The higher the IGF, this came from the nurses study, 32,826 nurses with the highest IGF level had 2.5 times the greater risk of colon rectal cancer. That's a lot of people. The bigger the study, usually we get some accurate results. Here's another study, Journal of the National Cancer Institute, a study of 14,961 male physicians. You think docs don't get cancer? Well, they may treat it. Listen to this. This study on almost 15,000 physicians, the case with those the highest IGF-1 and the lowest IGF-BP binding factor, that's the one that diminishes the negative effect, a relative risk of colon rose 4-fold after accounting for things like weight, height, alcohol intake, and other factors. In other words, we call this an independent risk factor that rose it 4-fold of developing colon rectal cancer in the docs. In fact, he hoped they got the magazine before you did. Goes on. Last year, data from the investigation of the male physicians also showed that men with the highest IGF levels had more than 4 times the risk of prostate cancer. So 4 times bowel, colon rectal, and 4 times prostate cancer. Laboratory came out, this is premenopausal women with the highest IGF levels have more than twice the relative risk of breast cancer. IGF is a compound, is a protein made when you consume too much animal protein, and it stimulates growth. It's the kind of thing you want when you're 2 years old until you're 14. And then you want it to slow down and back off. You don't need this growth factor all your life. So you don't want to eat a diet that stimulates that when you're 30, when you want to get rid of it then. I mean, most of us aren't growing taller. We only have one choice when you're an adult. Grow out. Stop growing up. I love to work with kids. The kid will come in there, be 4.5 feet tall, weigh 85 pounds, and I say, you're carrying too much weight. I said, you got a choice. Grow 5 inches or lose 30 pounds. So what do they choose? I'll take the 5 inches. No. See, my point is, when you're a kid, you can grow out of some of these things. We don't have that choice anymore. Prostate cancer. Animal protein stimulates the production of insulin-like growth factor. Muscle proteins in meat, egg whites, and milk stimulate that production. I grew up a vegetarian. Our definition of vegetarian when I was 5 years old was lacto-ovo-vegetarian. We had our own cow. We raised our own chickens. Good-looking chickens, laid brown eggs. I've eaten my share of eggs. I don't need any more for the rest of my life. I've had my quota already. Got that when I was very young. But the lacto-ovo-vegetarians, compared to the animal protein, which is animal protein here, did not significantly reduce the IGF levels. Do not fall into the trap of saying, well, I'm going to give up my steak, but I'm going to eat all the cheese and eggs, whatever else I want. Do not fall into that trap. You will not have the kind of results that you want. Vegan vegetarians reduced this cancer-promoting hormone because they weren't eating anything to stimulate it. Fats, the greater the quantity of any fat, increases prostate cancer, and that's what I showed you during the first session. Plant-based diet. Flaxseed contains lignans, not flaxseed oil. Flaxseed contains lignans, which reduce prostate cancer. Recommended dose in the study that I read is 3 tablespoons of flaxseed per day. I'd recommend you grind it, and I recommend you use it. You can hide it in anything or whatever, however you want to use it. And by the way, I know this study says flaxseed, but chia seed should do exactly the same if you prefer that one. Dr. Dean Ornish, known for his research in cardiovascular disease and reversing heart disease, has taken a few other steps since then and teamed up with Nathan Pritikin Institute. Wasn't a doctor, he was an engineer. Nathan Pritikin is no longer with us. But they're looking at what causes cancer. Here's what they found. The whole food, plant-based diet reduced PSA levels in men that have been on his diet for 1 year. They reduced the PSA levels, which means if they had a tumor, it would be getting smaller. As tumor grows, it tends to put off more prostate-specific antigen. The control group went up by 6%. This group went down by 4%, so it was a 10% difference. But here's what got my attention. When they did biopsies after that 1 year, they found, when the biopsies were done, 500 gene expressions were changed or altered. Now, that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. But here's the whole area that we're studying into. My professor was correct when he says you can't change someone's genes. That's what you're set up with. That's what you got for life. But here's what you can change: how the gene is expressed. Your diet and your lifestyle turns on a gene or turns off a gene. What we found in these 500 gene alterations on this type of diet for a year, and these men with prostate, they had the cancer. We're down the road. This isn't prevention anymore. They had the cancer. We're treating it. It's going down. They're making progress. That the 500 gene expressions were those that suppressed the growth rate and improved the health of the cell. That's the kind of gene expressions they were getting. We call this whole area, if you want to study it, it's called epigenetics. Those things that affect around the gene versus ionizing radiation that can go right in there and zap the gene and kill it. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a normal process that you can change how your genes express themselves by what you eat. That's one of the most amazing studies that have come out. Diet versus exercise. Diet plays a greater role in the prevention of both for prostate cancer. Another study, they had men, this is a long-term study. They want to find out. They had a control group, didn't care if they ate right, didn't eat right, average American. They had a group of men who were serious about exercise. They had exercised for at least an hour a day, and they followed them for 15 years. Their blood's ability to kill cancer cells on a petri dish was really significant. The general population with their French fry diet, you want to call it, and no exercise, when they dropped their blood on the prostate cancer cells that were grown, it had about a 2% effective rate in killing some of those cells. So it killed some of those cells. So that's why every man doesn't have prostate cancer. The runners in that group that were diligent about their running, they weren't on a special diet, had 2,000 times the kill rate that the control group had. So you go, wow, those exercises are incredible. The third group got my attention. They were called the strollers that ate a plant-based diet. So that was the guy who's out there walking. He's not wearing out his shoes. He still has the same knees he was born with. He hasn't run all those miles. He's out there strolling, eating a plant-based diet. These guys that exercised for 15 years at 2,000% increase. Guess what the plant-based plant-based strollers had? 4,000. Exercise is important. but you can't exercise enough to make up for a bad diet. You also can't exercise enough to be at a healthy weight unless you're just exercising enormous amounts. For example, whether you run a mile or walk a mile, you burn about 100, 110 calories. How many calories in that snack you ate when you got home? You can always out-eat your exercise. And if you don't believe me, look around you the next time you go to the gym. The people that came there a year ago are just as big as they are this year, and they've exercised maybe more than you did. What's the problem? We have believed that if I exercise enough, I can maintain a healthy weight. That's bogus. You actually have to cut the fuel. To burn all your fuel at exercise, you will go around literally miserable because you will always be in a caloric deficit and you will always be hungry, not because you're gorging yourself or having a binge. It's because you truly are hungry because you're in caloric deficit the whole time. Do not believe that you can exercise off your weight. You have to change what you eat. If you put the two together, you've got an awesome combination. This is for you men. I thought we'd put this in. Benign prostate hypertrophy, enlargement of the gland. Here's a few tips. Number one, the flaxseed therapy is effective in reducing the size of the prostate. This is not cancer here. This is an enlarged gland. But we say not cancer, meaning not malignant cancer. This is a cancer. It just happens to be benign. You've got cell growth in the wrong place affecting internal function. We got a problem. Garlic. Hey, guys, you can lose a lot of friends and the bugs won't even bite you. Onions, cooked vegetable, better than raw. In this situation, that is correct, specifically the broccoli I was talking about before to try to answer your question, sir. Soy foods in prevention of hyperplasia, legumes, beans, chickpeas, split peas, lentils. So if you want your menu, increase these in your menu, and you should help you with this particular situation. Lung cancer, you've got one slide. I said I was not going to spend much time on it. Smoking is the major issue because of what we do to the lung. I would recommend you increase your vitamin A, your vitamin E, and your vitamin C. That doesn't give you permission to keep smoking. But that will help your lungs be less susceptible to lung cancer even if you're a non-smoker. Remember what we said about turmeric. The number of women and the number of men in India have a much lower lung cancer rate than we do in the United States. And I happen to believe that turmeric is one of the benefits that they are from their diet. India is not known to be as clean a place as you have right here in the United States. So if their air quality in the larger cities is probably a whole lot worse. So it's not just air quality giving them more lung cancer or less lung cancer, or something more to it. Turmeric, carcinogen, blocking effect of turmeric. You know, when you go online and read about turmeric, it's almost going to sound like snake oil to you, I know. It looks like it'll cure about anything. The reason it will is because it's an anti-inflammatory. Every disease entity that we deal with, you name it, comes back to an inflammatory response of the body. Take care of the inflammation, you knock out diseases. That's why you put a person on a health program, one health program, and it amazes me. I will probably always be amazed to have people walk in the office after they've been on a program for a month or two or three. I'm going, hey, you came to see me about your heart disease. What happened to your diabetes? How much have you reduced your cancer? See, when you get the right answer, you get health. Medical model says you take this pill for this disease and this treatment for this disease, and then this pill to make up for the negative sides of this pill, and then this third pill because the first one didn't work good enough. That's not good logic. Whatever program you choose to go on needs to make you all healthy in every area. I don't want one treatment that gives me prostate cancer to try to protect my Alzheimer's. And by the way, medications aren't preventive medicine. When you go in for your preventive medicine check to most doctors, it isn't labeled correctly. It's not preventive medicine. If it was preventive medicine, you wouldn't be there. Why do you need a doctor if you're healthy? Dark green leafy, your kale, your collard, your Swiss chard. Air pollution, silicosis, asbestosis. If you work in those kind of plants, whatever. I worked my way through college being an auto mechanic. That's when the brakes that I would change have asbestos in them. So I'm not going to pay someone to stick a thing down my throat and take a look at my lungs right now, because I still like them. But the point is, we get these exposures over time. I've made a whole career out of it. It may be more of a problem. Elements of a cancer protective lifestyle. This is going to be a lot of summary, so hang in there with me. We'll go through it. Proper diet, fruits, vegetables, cereal, grains, nuts. Proper weight control, regular meals, and no snacks. Why do I say no snacks? Will you please give your intestinal tract a rest? A rested gastrointestinal system always does better to digest your food. Americans eat way too much food. You could take half your food and give it to a kid in Africa, and they would appreciate you. At least that's what your mother told you if you don't clean your plate. Kids in Africa can't eat. You figure that one out, and I'll tell my mom. Well, I can't tell my mom. Regular aerobic exercise, sunlight in moderation, and stress control. I can't put enough emphasis because it's hard to evaluate that. I can tell whether you ate broccoli or not. I can't tell what your stress number is, so to speak. Different chemicals. We won't have to kind of go through all these. You recognize this one from before. Sulforaphane in broccoli. Your resveratrol from grapes. You start going through this whole thing. Most of the time we're tempted to go out and buy some allyl sulfates. Well, folks, just eat your garlic, or your isoflavones and your saffrons. You can eat your soybeans. Or here's a good one. Proteinase inhibitors is what we use right now to treat AIDS. Why don't they pass out a pound of soybeans? Ulalic acid, grapes, caffeinic acid, phytic acid. How about omega-3 fats? Everyone on this chart, I don't recommend you eat. I'm just showing you what has omega-3s in. Flaxseed, 1 tablespoon of flaxseed has 7,526 milligrams. That's why it's top of the list. English walnuts, here's canola oil. Don't recommend that one. Here's your black walnuts, your wheat germ. You go through the whole list. And you can see that by having your flaxseed for the day, that quantity, you can add up probably the whole rest of the list and not equal what you get in your flaxseed. That's why we do it. And a cucumber, enjoy it, but I'm not really worried about the 12 milligrams it has in it. Disorders that benefit from omega-3 fatty acids. Rheumatoid arthritis. What's the cause of rheumatoid arthritis? Inflammation. That's the right answer. The immune system infiltrates the joint tissue and causes inflammatory response. That's why you have swelling, pain, and deterioration of the bone. So where you get abnormal joint function, and one side can wear more than the other, and you get these distortion of fingers, etc., etc., etc. It's back to an inflammatory response. The question is, how do I retrain the immune system? Well, everything I've said today about diet is how you retrain the immune system. Raynaud's disease, circulatory things in the hand, psoriasis, ulcers, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. That you can't treat Crohn's disease. Well, do you want it treated? I'll be glad to help you. Every disease has been cured known to man. So there's no such thing as an uncurable disease. The problem is, how do you want to get cured? Depression. Omega-3 fats help brain. Over-aggressiveness. If someone sends you some flaxseed, take the hint. I mean, you're worried about getting coal in your stocking for Christmas, right? Well, if you get a pound of flaxseed in your stocking, maybe someone's trying to tell you something. For possible prevention of breast and colon carcinoma, prevention of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung disease. Antioxidants, the top 10, you're going to see the list. I just happened to make this, got this one. From strawberries to plums to orange to kale. Folks, it's called Eat your choice of the best vegetables and fruit you can get your hands on. Make your plate look beautiful with the colors of the rainbow, and you got it. Now, if you want to go do research and dig through and figure out how much carotene your carrot has in, help yourself. But make sure you don't eat the book, eat the carrot, okay? I mean, that's the point. How about vegetables, protected vegetables, from blueberries to kale, cantaloupe to pumpkin. So if it looks good and if it smells good, probably worth eating. Vegetarian benefits, the vegetable diet: 0 cholesterol, saturated fat, high fiber, 0 animal protein, 0 heme iron, that powerful antioxidant, rich in antioxidants, rich in folic acid and B6, promotes weight control. Got some pretty pictures. Anybody eat these things? Pomegranates. I see a few hands. My wife has the patience. I just watch her eat it. You got so many seeds in there that if you want to, quote, not eat the seeds, now if you chew up the seeds, you probably get a little bit extra fiber, no problem there. But it's gel around all these seeds in there, and you kind of have to pick through it. I'll take the kiwi. Okay, carotene, the precursor to your vitamin A. If you think of it this way, any yellow, red, or green food, you got it made. Vitamin C, same thing. Any red, yellow, berries, kiwi fruit, oranges, cabbage, you've got it. Vitamin E, obviously, is going to be found in your whole grains. Anytime you've got a germ, whether it be from wheat or any other grain, and you see the oils have it in here, whether it be almond butter. And by the way, like I'm saying, I don't recommend everything on my slide. I'm showing you where the vitamin E is from. And we're back to this. So, the take-home message is really simple. Eat like a cow. Don't eat the cow. It's that simple. And we trip over it, and we fall over it, and we argue with myself, or well, maybe you argue with yourself, and we try to give ourselves all kinds of excuses, but I've never seen an excuse help a person get over their cancer. I've never seen someone's excuses make them healthy. So I don't have a lot of time for excuses. I hope you don't either. But if you can't believe it, talk to someone who's done it. Give yourself 1 month, and I will guarantee you, you will vote it as very important. Now, whether you'll stay with the rest of your life, I don't know. But I will tell you this. 1 month on my recommendations, you're going to have one of the best months you've had in your life. Absolutely incredible. I'm not ready to call anybody in the audience, but I definitely could. Susan has got a microphone, so we're going to get some lights. We'll turn on for questions.